writing this to you from my hometown in the Belgian countryside. I'm sitting in our backyard with a cup of coffee, looking at the farmer's cows, thinking, this is the perfect place for self-reflection. A few months ago, I was flipping through my reading journal, preparing for my mid-year flip-through video, when I realized that I've not had a great reading year. I've had no 5-star reads, no books that I've been gushing over to anyone. I've had a few good rereads, but that was about it. I haven't even had any books that I hated either. It's just been incredibly mediocre. I can feel myself falling into a reading slump, and books that I was excited to come home to that I had stashed away for my next visit, I'm just not really interested anymore. But I don't want this reading year to be doomed, so I'm getting into action. There are so many different ways to pick TBRs out there, and I've only tried a few. I've done the seasonal TBRs every now and then, unapologetically neglecting them as soon as I wrote them down. But thinking about it, there are still many unexplored ways I could try to prevent this reading slump as well as future ones. And since I know that there are some of you out there who struggle with reading slumps too, I figured I would document it and share with you each month as I try to find a different approach to eliminate the reading slump phenomenon. So these are my reading diaries. This moment of a lurking reading slump was actually combined with a moment of joy as I just hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. And to commemorate this, mainly for myself, I asked all of you once again to share your book recommendations with me. And as I'm sitting here thinking, the answer might just be right in front of me. You all have given me so many recommendations over the past year and a half-ish, which I have documented diligently, and now you've given me even more of them. So I decided to collect the full list of book recommendations you gave me, and it is quite a list. I could actually spend several months reading all of your recommendations. So I decided that the perfect way to start off the series is the booktube version of Phone a Friend. So once I was back in Kosovo, I started by fishing out the books that I already had on my shelf. Over the past year, I started picking up some of your recommendations. Some of you have also recommended me some classics or really popular books, so I picked those up naturally as well. And initially, I decided on 2 books. The first one was My Grandmother Sends Her Apologies and Regards. This book feels like a 2-for-1 because I loved Frederick Backman's other book, A Man Called Uwe. I loved the writing style, the characters, the way it just made me feel so many feelings, and it was so wholesome. So I felt like with this one, I couldn't go wrong, and it's great to start off in the right way. I also felt like I needed to read it because the day after one of you recommended this book to me on here, I walked into the tiniest bookstore in Skopje in North Macedonia, which had like 2 shelves of English books only, but this one was sitting right there and it had just felt like I had to buy it. The bookstore clerk also commended me on my choice, so I feel like I should relay that back to you because really you picked it for me. I also have a copy of Aragon by Christopher Paolini on my shelf, which I picked up at a secondhand book sale ages ago. I was a bit more hesitant with this choice. I've actually started and dropped this book a few times very early on. I think that high fantasy still scares me a little because I feel like I'm really behind and I worry that I'm not going to be able to follow or I'm going to forget the characters or some important world-building elements. But then I reminded myself that this book was written by a 16-year-old boy, so how bad can it really be? I do know that it's a book that's very divided in opinion among its readers. Some people praise it and absolutely love it, which includes some of you and several of my friends who absolutely adore the Inheritance Cycle series. Others hate it, and I've heard it being called just a rip-off from Lord of the Rings, but I haven't read the Lord of the Rings series, so I thought that wouldn't really affect me much or at all really. And since it was one of the first books to be recommended on this channel, I thought it had to be part of this first video. I had a few more books on my shelf that were recommended by you, but I kind of have a different idea of grouping those together for a later episode or episodes, so more on that in the coming months. Plus, not reading those gave me an opportunity to go book shopping. So I went on a little book hunt, and I actually went to 4 bookstores, the only ones I know that have English books here in the Pristina region. I was hoping to find 1 or 2, but I ended up empty-handed. I did not find a single one of the books you guys have recommended that were not the very popular BookTube books. So perhaps you all have very niche tastes in books, which makes me even more excited to read them. So I'll be keeping an eye out for those also when I'm traveling, because there are some of them, just from reading the blurb, I'm so excited to read. Honestly, can't wait, but access to English books is a little bit of an issue at the moment, and I don't like to order online too much. But luckily, I do have my Kindle, which left all the options open to me. Since this is the first episode still, I'm still playing it safe. I really want to make sure that I get a little boost to get out of this reading slump. So I went for Hank Green's An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. I loved John Green's books growing up. They also helped me get out of my 5-year reading slump a couple of years ago. I hadn't actually read anything by Hank Green, but I have very fond memories of spending hours watching Vlogbrothers videos, so I didn't think it could go wrong. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing is book 1 in the duology The Carls. I've actually finished both books in this series by now, and I have a lot to say, but I will keep all my thoughts for my wrap-up video later this month. But this was a game changer, for sure. After starting The Carls, I figured I could finish 1 more book, and I was feeling a little more brave, so I picked a completely random book that I hadn't heard of at all, but sounded kind of cool and still relatively light. So I picked up The Solitaire Mystery. This is a very quirky fantasy novel written by Jocelyn Garder, the Norwegian author of Sophie's World, which apparently is quite famous, but I hadn't heard of at all. It's got themes of philosophy, family, finding belonging, a lot to unpack in the wrap-up. Very different from what I've read otherwise, but it was also kind of the point of taking your recommendations. So without going into the detailed reviews, I really did like the Phone a Friend TBR, partly because you all clearly have great taste in books, but also because it felt like a fun way to interact with all of you and to get to know your reading tastes more. Maybe to eventually discuss these books with you. I had a great time with episode 1. I hope you did too. Please give this video a like if you did to help me out, and you can expect many more of these episodes to come. There will also be a reading wrap-up and reading journal update soon, so don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.